My name is Yolanda Prieto, and I was a professor of sociology at Ramapo College of New Jersey when the events of 9/11 took place. This is going to be the recollection of my experiences on that day and the days that followed. Nine 9/11 is really a very significant event. It was a significant day to me, and not only to me, but to a lot of people, to the whole world actually. But in New York, it was felt much more, it was felt deeper than in other places because, we had the towers there. It was the terrorist attack that where more people died, because remember, they also had a plane crash in Pennsylvania and another one in Washington in the Pentagon. But it is a day that I'll never forget, never forget. On Tuesdays, I didn't teach, which means that I was home doing schoolwork anyway. And that day, September 11th, was a Tuesday, a beautiful Tuesday. I mean, the skies were blue and it was fall weather. It was really beautiful. And all of a sudden the phone rang, and it was a friend in North Carolina. And he said, "Do you know what happened? I mean, what happened to the Twin Towers? I mean, was it a terrorist attack or what?" And I said, "What are you talking about? I don't know what happened." And he said, "Well, I'll find out." I didn't have the TV on or anything. I went out ready to take the subway. No subways were working. The bus, no buses were working. And when I got out to come back home, it was hundreds of people coming from downtown to uptown. They got out of work because of that situation. The whole city was paralyzed. And I walked too. There was no subway, no bus, so I walked home, like 30 blocks or something like that. So I came back and, I was glued to the television the whole time. And there was something very interesting too. I'm really kind of scary. These military planes, I don't remember how you call them, A-15s, and they were hovering, on all the buildings, checking everything. And then that day I stayed like that. But how do you get to work? How do you go to the grocery store? How do you lead on your life as if nothing happened? Well, you couldn't, because the city was paralyzed. I mean, people couldn't go from one job to their houses and vice versa, because there was no transportation. It was really very difficult. That was the first day. The more time passed, the more you realized what the extent of the damage was. I mean, there were so many people dead. There were so many people disappeared, and people with relatives in the towers had the hope that they would be alive. Many were, the ones that could escape, but many were not. And I remember that in all buildings, including mine, in the basements, there were pictures of people who worked or were in the towers that morning, that the relatives would be posting all these pictures and information about them, the names and where they worked, such and such a floor or whatever. So it was amazing, these notices that were about, you knew that most of them were people dead, In my case, for example, I had to drive, but I had to drive because I worked in New Jersey, so it didn't affect me, that part of it. But the Washington Bridge was closed for a few days too. So all jobs, in all kinds of jobs and situations, they were closed. They couldn't work because they didn't have workers to come to work. It was, the city was a mess, really, a real mess, with the sadness that the mess had been provoked by this whole terrible terrorist attack. It has affected me, I would say, in terms of how we look at each other, how we feel about each other, and the importance of kindness among all human beings. I mean, what happened was so horrible. How can you understand terrorism? You can't understand it. It is so awful that there are really very few words to describe it. I'm really thinking of this as an opportunity. I mean, 9/11 and all the terrorist attacks that have happened, it's an opportunity for us to be able to promote better relations with other nations in the world. So at the individual level and at the country level, I would say this could be a good lesson to learn. Unfortunately, but it could be a good lesson. I hope it is taken as a good lesson to learn.